and I'll just let Adam and David just quickly introduce themselves if you don't know them already, and then we'll go through the presentation. As I say, we'll do some questions. You can put questions in the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll open up the microphones later on for any kind of questions that we have around this topic. So I'll hand over to you guys.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for everyone attending today as well. It's always appreciative, and thanks to Globe for the opportunity to allow us to present on Vespex, which is really unique. I'll introduce myself. So I'm the and I've got a great opportunity. I'm the National Business Operation Manager for Sundew, and enjoying my role. David, so Sundew is it's 100% Australian-owned, family-run business, and David and Trina Pretty started the business, back in 2009. Very passionate. David's very passionate. We are a boutique manufacturer of brilliant pest control products in the industry. And our latest products, like Mark mentioned, is our EcoWise range. Dave, did you want to have a quick talk about your experience?
No worries. Thanks everyone for coming along today. Yep, my name is David Pretty. I'm the owner of Sundew Solutions. Thanks Globe for the opportunity to talk about Vespex. European wasps are a thing that I've been passionate about for many years. I've been playing with European wasps, feeding European wasps, torturing European wasps for well over 15 years. Vespex is a range of products that Adam will obviously be sharing and talking today, but it's come out of the need in the marketplace for a solution to be able to remote bait and control wasps. It's the first one of its kind, so it's quite unique. And please, I'll let Adam take over and share the information. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. So until 2021, there was no remote treatment available for European wasp management. And in my over 15 years in the industry, if I got a call to go out and look for European wasps, sometimes I'll get to the house and there wasn't a European nest on the actual site, and sometimes we just have to let the owners know that we couldn't actually do anything. So when Dave brought the product out in 2021, there was a lot of excitement in the industry because there was an opportunity to be able to set up a remote baiting and trapping system. The common methods, before Vespex was available to treat European wasps is, if there's a nest because European wasps commonly nest in the ground, and there's also inside wall structures of houses is very common. Sometimes even tree branches, trees will fall down, there'll be a crack in the tree, and that's a great opportunity for European wasps to start up a colony. Also in wood piles is a common nesting spot for queens over winter. The most common, obviously, for a house or the methods are dusting. You can use an aerosol as well, or commonly in ground, you can use like a bifenthrin, or is the most common one that's used to treat an in-ground nest as well. So we still recommend, if you can locate a nest on a property, still recommend direct treating. It's a lot quicker in terms of, if you know where the nest is. The European wasp, we thought we'd go through a little bit of information about European wasps and the general information. They have been around for a fair while now. They were introduced in Tasmania 1958, so late 50s. There was a stowed hibernating queen on a ship, and it took the next sort of 10 to 15 years for them to really reach and cause some effect in Victoria, New South Wales, South Australia and WA. They are native to Europe, and in Europe, I've got some family over in Europe that have lived there my whole life, and I was talking to my uncle the other day, and he was saying that the nests die off there because it's just so cold. They get a lot of temperatures below zero, and the wasp colonies don't survive. So generally, when it comes winter, they do die off. They are far more aggressive than native wasps. So it's very common. We've got paper wasps, and you got wood wasps, and you've got a lot of different native wasps here in Australia, and European wasps are far more aggressive. They cause a lot of destruction, especially agriculturally. So I've done a lot of work with pest controllers at wineries, and had to talk to a lot of winery owners, and they can cause some massive destruction there. Declared pest in WA and ACT. I was talking to Mark Wilson about it yesterday. In WA especially, they do need to be reported. So the department over there, so pest controllers generally don't treat. They can report, but being declared in W and ACT for a while now. Some general information. The main facts that I wanted to sort of point out when identifying European wasps is the distinct antennae and legs. You can see that the paper wasp does have yellow legs as well, but the body is quite distinct. The European wasp, the abdomen is quite bigger, and when the European wasp flies, they tuck their legs up, and they're quite erratic when they fly. In terms of size, honeybees and European wasps are very similar in size. The paper wasp can grow, quite, another 10 millimeters in size as well. In terms of their nests, European wasps it's about the size of a basketball on average. Paper wasps generally nest, it's tiny round, about the size of a billiard ball, sometimes even smaller. And it's generally up in the top of a house roof, and less wasps in a nest. There's, a European wasp nest can get up to, 5,000 in a nest or more. Paper wasp nests are, small individuals. I've even had some where there's only 10 inside the nest, so very small. European wasps, obviously, they can multiple sting, so there's a lot of reaction because of the multiple stings. They don't die when they sting you. Honeybees, on the on chance of being stung by them, they will die once they sting you. The paper wasp obviously can sting as well, and multiple stings as well, but aren't as aggressive as the European wasps. Little diagram here. So the drones are the males, and they get created at the end of each season. So usually in autumn, a European wasp nest will produce reproductive queens and male drones. Once mated, the drones will die off, and usually the reproductive queens will fly off to start a new colony. The workers, you can see in size, the queen is quite distinct. Her abdomen is quite distinctly bigger in size than the female. The workers are all female, and the worker you can see on the right is a lot smaller in size than the queen. The drones are very long and narrow, and when you trap them, you can really tell the difference between the males and the females. Little bit of information I got from a winery, so 50 kilometres from Mount Hotham. Deborah, they had to bin $20,000 worth of grapes, and that might not seem like a lot to some people, but when I was talking to the owners, that's over $250,000 in income for them, which is massive, just by European wasps. In Tasmania, 1999, there was 10 to 20% loss in vineyards, yield losses, which is huge as well. The bottom fact I find I was blown away. Over a 50-year period, European wasps, if they continue to spread, can cause $2.66 billion. So this Vespex system is a massive opportunity for, if you're currently doing tender work at wineries for, say, rodents or general pest on their buildings, you can add this to their tender, and you can get some really good results. Some environmental impacts from European wasps. Obviously, they prey on our native insects, which can create biodiversity loss, ecosystem imbalance. The main thing is, obviously, with European wasps around, they're feeding on insects which our birds, reptiles, and other animals feed on. So it does disrupt the food chain quite significantly. I mentioned before, so damage to fruit crops. So obviously European wasps are attracted to ripe fruit. They damage the grapes and sometimes even minimal damage to those grapes where they're consuming and taking back to the nest can ruin the crops. Economic losses for farmers, and it's not just wineries, it's also stone fruits. Many ag farms get disruption from European wasps as well. Beekeeping is one that myself and Dave have had a lot of calls. Even in the 3 years I've been at Sundew, we had an instance in Victoria where a beekeeper had his hives disrupted by European wasps. So they raid the hive, and obviously that can have a massive impact on our honey production as well. Some stinging hazards. Obviously, the stings are very painful. I'd mentioned earlier they can sting multiple times, which can cause allergic reactions or anaphylaxis. The European wasp, because of the nuisance of them and because of the biomass of the European wasp, there's so many in a nest, and in an area you can get multiple nests, they can have a massive impact on tourism and public safety. In some instances, Brimbank Park in Victoria, we went there on one weekend, and there was a massive plague of European wasps there, and I was able to reach out to one of our accredited Victorian pest control companies and get them some work there at the Brimbank Council there. So it can cause a massive impact. If you're, food and drink, if you've got Coke cans or soft drink cans, just make sure you recommended to drink out of a straw. When you're eating or consuming food, or you leave it for an instance, just make sure you check your food before you eat, because they can sting in the mouth or throat. I got some information from, this is actually from Ambulance Victoria. So 7 deaths over a 20-year period attributed to wasp stings have been recorded in Australia. However, they were known allergy sufferers, and most of the time it's either they've been stung by ants or bees, or sometimes people do have allergies that and being stung by a wasp can aspirate that. So it's always recommended to, I find that the top stat too, around one in 10 people who are stung twice or more become allergic. So just be mindful when you are treating European wasps. Always think about safety, always have your PPE gear on, and it's always recommended to carry an EpiPen as well. The life cycle of a European wasp. So I mentioned earlier, they start with the male or the drone and queen, so the female. They'll usually mate in autumn, so the end of the season, and then the queen will hibernate over winter. The nest itself is usually between 5 and 20 cells, so it's really quite small when the nest establishes itself. The queen sort of lacks a bit of energy because she's, in her early days being pregnant. The whole life cycle from early larvae, older larvae to pupa, it's generally that 7 to 21 days. And then from there, it's generally another 10 to 15 days. So it's generally just over 30 days, that whole life cycle. And then they become, once they pupate, they become a female worker. And usually a nest will have 4,000 workers and 1,000 new generation queens. So generally it's about 5,000. Where a nest overwinters, so what will usually happen, instead of those female workers, reproductives flying off to start a new nest, they'll remain in that same nest, and that's where you can get big nests over time. So 5 instars occur. I mentioned about a month in the whole, life cycle of a European wasp nest. The larvae feed on protein, and they are tended by the queen for a number of weeks, while the female workers go through their stages, pupae stage, larvae stage. And so when it's a good time, obviously, if you see female workers out and about, or you see a queen getting protein, the nest is in its early days. So very small nest, like I said, 5 to 6. Sometimes it can get up to 20 eggs in total. Once fully fed, the larvae do spin a cocoon within the cell. And if you've pulled open a wasp nest, it's quite fascinating. You can see within the cell, they are quite small. The reproductive queen cells are quite big. They are larger in size. And then the first batches of the workers will then take over construction of the nest. So sometimes throughout the season, between now and say November, even December, you can see some European wasps. The workers will be out on fences. We've even had a queen inside the house last year taking wood off our door inside our house, which was amazing. So you can sort of tell what stage a nest is at by what the workers are doing, whether they're gathering nesting material, whether they're searching for protein. It could be insects on a car. It could be, a carcass on the side of the road, or it could be just looking for carbohydrates, which is like your soft drinks or cans. Did go through the life cycle activity, but here's a diagram just to show the top picture there is the queen overwintering, and sometimes it can be in a wood pile. Sometimes it can be in a roof cavity. I've had some over the years doing pest control where there's been nests in the roof cavity. Over winter, spring, so you've got the September, October, November period where generally the queen is initiating the nest. First workers emerge. Generally, it's late spring now. The season, especially in Victoria, it seems to be getting later. It obviously depends on weather. And then the colony phase will get quite bigger over the summer period. And generally that's, January, February, March is where we notice the peak populations of the workers around. They start to become a nuisance at family barbecues or at events. And then over that autumn period, the new reproductives are produced and male drones, and then hopefully the colony will demise. And if the temperatures get below zero, there's enough rain to wash out the in-ground nest. Generally that that'll have a colony demise. In terms of the seasons, we can see there the spring, summer, autumn period is really crucial. We want to try and trap these queens as soon as they emerge from hibernation. Does really reduce the population of the European wasps. Now the exciting part. So I'll get onto our European wasp solutions. It's a two-pronged program. So we have trapping, and trapping is used with our dominator trap. Dave over the years has played with different traps. I think Dave mentioned he's had a massive interest in European wasps for a long time, and I've seen photos of Dave's traps and finally came up with a really unique design. The dominator trap, when you see it side on, it is designed that when it rains too, that it sort of beads off. You don't get too much rain coming into these traps. It's very sturdy. This trap will last years out in the environment, and it's designed with 2 cones, so one on each side. These dominator traps, You can use these for baiting too on a really high pressure site. You can just pop the cones out and use it in a way of baiting as well, which I'll run through shortly. And on the right, stage 2 is our remote baiting, and that's used with our baiting tunnel. It's an amazing design. It's got a little feeder tray inside, quite sturdy, and Dave has put a lot of effort into creating all the mounting. So you can screw it to a structure. You can use cable ties, especially on like colour bond fencing, or if you don't have a structure to mount it to, you can use your star pickets and actually use the back and put a cable tie through, which is amazing as well. So you've got all your recording data on the back of the tunnel. We recommend putting it faced around so you can record, the date, the bait level, whether it's full, half, or empty, and tech initials. Some companies have multiple techs attending the site, so it's always recommended to put your initials and the station number as well. Both these stations, so the baiting dominator trap and the baiting tunnel, can just be washed with warm soapy water when you're because the lure itself is quite sticky, and obviously when you're using our bait, which I'll run through shortly, it does become quite sticky, and recommend just washing with warm soapy water. In terms of trapping, really good for sensitive areas like your childcare centres, schools, parks, council areas like playgrounds. It's really amazing. You can use trapping for monitoring for occurrence. I think I mentioned to Dave, I'm going to put up 4 at my house this year. We've had some instances last year of wasps at the back of our house where there's a railway line and a creek. So I'm just going to monitor this spring, summer to see if I have any European wasps and what direction they're coming from, and have a play around. Directional targeting of treatment. So if you do know where wasps are flying in their flight path, you can place a trap from where they're feeding. Generally it's about 8 to 20 meters from where they're feeding in their flight path. So you can do directional treatments. I love the fact that, trapping queens, like I mentioned earlier, if you trap one queen, you can reduce a nest, which, potentially could contain up to 5,000 individuals, and reduce the biomass in autumn of any overwintering nests. So Victoria, a few years ago, I think it was when I started at Sundew about 3 years ago, I was talking to Rowan, who's our technical solutions advisor, and we were discussing that Victoria had, overwintering, so a lot of nests just kept going. New South Wales had the same instance of overwintering, so it's a great impact. You can reduce that biomass. In the ACT spring, so I got this off Rowan, there was 600 queens trapped and killed in 14 days. So we mentioned, if you've got a nest of a potential of 5,000, if you do the math, that is a massive reduction and significant impact, reduction there in the ACT. After that spring of 2021, it was a couple of years before the ACT noticed that there was Euros back again. So it can reduce and have a massive impact on each state if we can trap those queens. Just want to talk about our Vespex European Wasp lure. Dave put a lot of work into this. One of the key benefits of our carbohydrate-based lure is it does have a bee repellency inside. Now, when used as directed, and that's always the case, the bee repellency does break down. So it's recommended to change over that lure. 21 days is a key factor there if you can change that lure over. It does come in a 250 ml pouch and a 5 litre jerry can as well. It can be used all year round, and it does attract workers and queens. We have, and pest controllers have mentioned this too, you can trap some other insects like flies. We are looking at potential of Asian paper wasps have been trapped in the ACT. and so it can trap other insects in there as well, especially flies can become pesty as well. But yeah, just make sure that you do change it over for the bee aspect with the lure. I've got a little short video. It runs for about 1.5 minutes. It's on trapping, and this was taken in the ACT. So enjoy this short little video.
Did you switch the audio on, Adam?
Adam?
Yep.
There's no sound?
No sound? Sorry.
No sound.
Can you change the
Just
settings, or
go
do you have
in.
to come back off and on again?
Just do.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest way to do it.
Okay.
Amount of insects, things like that, but that takes the food sources from.
Keeping the sting out of spring.
It stops her from establishing nest. Once they establish nest, they can go on becoming a nuisance pest and also predatory pest on our native species.
The European wasp especially pesky.
But not only do they prey on a large amount of insects, things like that, but that takes the food sources from our native species like other wasps or spiders, insects, and our birds as well.
A specialised non-toxic formula attracting queens when they emerge from hibernation, stopping them in their traps.
Carbohydrates is what they feed on, so they go for the traps where we put out in the areas that we have identified over the last couple of years that are our hotspots.
Each queen wasp able to produce 4,000 workers and an extra 1,000 next generation queens. 1,500 queens captured this season, stopping over 6 million other wasps from producing, with instances of stinging and removal requests both decreasing.
At the moment, our reporting to the hotline is down, so we do think it has had an impact on the amount of wasps that are out there.
The public encouraged to contact eWasp online or by the phone if they have a pesky issue. Montana Claire, Win News. Keeping.
Awesome. The second part of our Vespex European Wasp baiting and trapping system is remote baiting. So we do have a accreditation course on our website, and I'll run through that link shortly, but we do recommend that, especially when baiting, that you are accredited. And baiting is good when you're not able to directly treat a nest. So sometimes you'll have a residential property where the wasps are flying up and over a fence, and you can't track them. You know, they can go up to 0.5 kilometre away. So that instance, baiting is a really good option. In sensitive locations, we mentioned earlier, like childcare centres, schools, restaurants, commercial sites, it is a really good option to bait. Large biomass is present. So when you've got a large biomass of wasps in an area, it's really good to set up the remote baiting tunnels in their flight path. And it reduces and eliminates a population really quickly. I've been out with some pest controllers, and I've got an example to run through shortly where we got whole colony elimination within 2 weeks. So it was a massive, and they'd been fighting European wasps for the last 3 years at their site. Generally, it's less than 14 days, though. Some pest controllers have mentioned to me that they've got whole colony collapse within 7 days, so it can happen really quickly. Ensnare Pro is the toxicant or bait, which is used in our Vespex baiting system. Now, this is it's a brilliant chemical. It is indoxacarb. It is a 50 gram per litre product. And it's a non-repellent, non-staining, and it is a non-neonic. So it is safe to use around pollinating plants, flowers. Indoxacarb itself is a really safe active. The reason why I've just got the label claims up is because with our baiting program, and when you do if you're not currently accredited, you'll learn it through our course. It's a minute amount of bait of Ensnare Pro, which is used with our lure. So being a litre bottle, it is really good on ants, being a non-repellent. Brilliant on cockroaches. For those of you that have used Indoxacarb, especially even in your gels, you'll know how amazing as an active it is. It is slower working. So brilliant on German and any species of Australian cockroach. You can use it as a fly bait. So 10 grams, if you mix up 10 mil per litre, 10 grams you can do of castor sugar per litre. It is a really effective fly bait, so you can use that. I've used it at home in my fresco area, and it just blows the flies to smithereens. Dave has done a powerhouse of work to get extra pests on our Ensnare Pro label. So you've got millipedes, slaters, crickets, and fleas as well, and it is really good for those target pests. We do provide you with a starting accessory kit, and these kits contain 10 bait tunnels, 10 feeder trays. Dave has put cable ties, permanent marker, a 500ml mixing bottle to mix up your, especially when you're baiting. You can mix up the lure and Ensnare Pro in there really effectively. Dave has put in their site map planner pages, so they're really good to map out your sites and even photocopy or give copies to your customers as well. And there is a 5ml measuring syringe. As I mentioned earlier, you're only drawing up a small amount of toxicant in Ensnare Pro, so the syringe is being thrown in there as well. We do provide extra kits now as well. So we do have in our, and all the resellers, Supply Globe is a big supporter. We've got a 50 bait tunnels, 50 feeder trays. We do have extra cones as well. So if you lose your cones, we've got those as well. So for those bigger sites, you can buy bigger bulk packs as well.
And just to clarify for everyone what Adam has just said, we make up a toxicant bait which is used in the tunnels, and it can be used in the dominator traps as well. It's a combination of the lure. So we have our lure which has got no toxicant in it, and we add a small amount of Ensnare Pro. We mix that together, and that forms an attractive bait. And being a non-repellent, non-detectable, the wasps, the worker wasps, will feed on that combination of the Ensnare Pro incorporated into the lure. They take it back to the nest, feed it to the larvae, to the queen, and that ends up resulting in a colony collapse. So we make a toxicant bait out of those two combined together.
Awesome, thanks, Dave. On a site, I recommend also having some additional equipment when you're out setting up your sites. Star pickets, like I mentioned earlier, if you don't have a structure to be able to mount our bait tunnels or dominator traps on, they provide a really good way of securing those. Sledgehammer, screwdriver and drill bits are quite handy to have. Screws to be able to mount, especially the tunnels on a structure. Tie wire, extra tie wire is good to have. Cleaning equipment. So cleaning equipment can comprise of water, soap, or detergent. And it's always good to have a container to be able to wash your equipment in. Sealable containers are really good. So when you are on a site and you're emptying your European wasps, they're inside the dominator trap, you can tip them into a sealable container, put the lid on, and then have a separate container that you can do all your washing in, or separate container that you can take all your traps home and wash them at home, depending on what your day's looking like as well. Generally, when you get to your next job, the European wasps are generally they've generally died by then. The actual European Wasp too, if there's a little bit of lure inside the dominator trap, you can just shake up. Once the European Wasps get coated with our lure and Ensnare Pro, they generally can't fly as well. I've got a site here which actually Nathan, a pest controller down Geelong Way, I went out on site with him. This was in Bacchus Marsh. It was an abattoir. And you can see by the initial shot, there is the yellow lid of the dominator trap in between two waste bins. You can see in the top left, there is a conveyor, and all the scraps from the abattoir get along the conveyor and they drop into these bins. The first question I had, and Nathan was really good in this, was how often do the conveyor, the wall, the floor, and the bins get cleaned and emptied? So hygiene is a big one here because wasps have a really keen sense of smell, and they travel up to 1/2 kilometre away. So just be mindful of advising your clients on hygiene. I'm just going to play the short video now. It's no audio, but just play the video. You can see all the wasps over the meat carcasses there. There was so many wasps there. When I actually attended the site, I actually spent about 20 minutes with Nathan and we're looking at flight paths. Flight paths are really crucial with European wasps because there was so many buildings around here, and over 20 metres high. 20 odd flight paths were up and over the building. And then there was a vacant block, which you can see in this photo, where the wasps were actually flying up and over a fence into a 200-acre property. And so within 2 hours, we're trapped over 1,200 wasps and that was 20 traps along this 400-metre stretch. So we did 20-metre spacing, over 1,200 wasps. These wasps were hungry. They were chock-a-block in some of these traps. It was amazing. But like I said earlier, flight path, if you can get one trap in a flight path and space them between 20 to 50 metres apart, we find that that's the key in trapping these European wasps really quickly. I find with the dominator traps too, if you have the cones facing outwards, you'll generally get the lure, the wasps, especially if you get a little bit of wind, the lure will come out and it can attract them quite quickly as well. Dave will mention as well, when placing dominator traps out, recommend not putting it near flowering or pollinating trees. So don't hang them up where wasps are pollinating. Don't put it too close to a food source. So if you've got a barbecue going or a wasp is feeding on a carcass, don't put the trap too close to a food source. It's recommended in their flight path, but that 6 to 8 meters, 10 meters is really ideal. And I've found that when I'm helping pest controllers too, it's about that 6 to 10 meters that they just fly straight in. You can see some more little videos of some of the success we had in that 2 hours. It was amazing. On this site, because the population was quite heavy, instead of the bait tunnel, because I asked Nathan when he was going to return to this site, and he wasn't going to get back, within a week. So I said to him, it'd be a good idea to use the dominator trap, take the cones out, and this dominator trap contains our lure, so carbohydrate lure, plus our Ensnare Pro mixed. You can see it's quite milky. And I was able to get, we were able to get a worker wasp straight in there. That's awesome. And then the next shot, I was able to snap it on the way out, which was amazing. So position, flight path, work out a plan. I always recommend if you're setting up a high pressure site, make sure that you return within that 24-hour period, because sometimes they can smash that lure really quickly, and the Ensnare Pro, and it can happen really fast. So just make sure you get back to the site if it's high pressure within that 24-hour period. Protecting yourself is really important, so always wear appropriate PPE gear. Even on that site, we both had suits, we both had our protective gear on. Heavy clothing, so whether you wear an extra pair of pants, extra t-shirt, jumper, tuck your socks into your tuck your pants, into your socks, and elbow length gloves is really good. I mentioned earlier, an EpiPen is really good to have on board. You can get prescriptions for those. Chemists generally stock them. And prepare an escape plan, because with wasps, they can multiple sting. Just make sure you're aware of your surroundings and know where to run if you do get stung. Read the label is really crucial. And I recommend that on all of your products. Just read the label in case there has been label changes as well. We've had that over the last few years with numerous of our products. Got a couple of diagrams. So this was a house. We did. There's a neighbouring property on each side. Now the things I wanted to point out earlier, what I was mentioning earlier, is the pool on the right-hand side is a neighbouring property, and there were wasps drinking from the pool. There's a jasmine vine along that fence line, which is where the European wasps were pollinating. A creek up the top, so at the back of the property, and a water tank on the left-hand side. But all these, so water sources and food sources have a massive impact on when you're trying to trap European wasps. So make sure in their flight paths, so away from the water tank or a pool or a pollinating tree, just step it back that 8 to 10 meters is ideal. If you can get 8 to 10 meters. On other instances, if you can get 5 to 6 meters, it generally works as well. You can see on this site, 4 dominator traps were set up in their flight paths, and it had massive success on this site. These diagrams, just let me know. I can always share these. We might even get these on our resources, but these are really good diagrams that me and Rowan spend a lot of time drawing these up. The other diagram I've got is a winery, and this is a really good diagram because it shows, there's a creek on the left-hand side where a lot of in-ground nests were, but couldn't get to the creek to direct treat. And obviously near a creek, pesticide use is obviously very limited. All wineries do have car parks. They've got cellar door, usually a residence on site. And a great processing and storage unit. And in these areas, there's a lot of, especially the great processing storage unit, there's a lot of spilled grapes and wine there, and they get a lot of wasps coming in there. So on this instance, we did boundary baiting. So we put up over 20 traps. There's 23 traps there. And they were spaced between 50 meters and at the back there was 100 meters. But this winery, massive success once these traps were set up, and so this is a really good diagram to have because wineries want to protect their vines on the right. That's their source of income. This diagram will be put up on resources as well for you guys and girls. As mentioned earlier, we've got our accreditation program on our website. I'm going to share a link to Mark as well that he'll be able to share to you all. But it is on our sundewsolutions.com.au website. Under professional solutions, you scroll down to Vespex accreditation course. And once completed, it is a 2-part accreditation. We put you up on our Vespex site. And you can see on the left there, we've got, as people get accredited, we pin them. And then when we get calls, when I get calls, I always look up to see who in the state is accredited and in that area. And then I can refer work onto the accredited pest controllers. So it was a photo of DJ RF there in Point Cook that got accredited. Just wanted to mention, it's good to stay up to date. So at Sundew Solutions, we've got a e-newsletter. So if you go on our website, sundewsolutions.com.au, Scroll to the bottom of the page. If you enter in your name, email, and business name, we can keep you up to date on anything new that's happening within Sundew. And we also have monthly mail outs that we do on specific actives or products as well, which is exciting. Now we'll open the floor to any questions.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, thanks, Adam. Yeah, if there's any questions, the microphone should be able to just come off, and you should be able to ask a question, or if you want to type a question in, just let us know. There may have been questions earlier on, but I was loading slides on the chat, so the chat's a bit busy with slides because someone couldn't see the slides, so I've been copying slides across. So just go through those questions just now.
Quick question. Does it attract any of the other wasps besides the European wasp? Like the paper wasps and anything else? Does it attract any of those?
Good question. Originally, when we designed this, it was designed, all the research we did was around European wasps. That was what we were targeting. One of the side notes, one of the side observations is that we've been told by pest controllers that it does also work on Asian paper wasp. Apparently, it's specific to that. We're not getting any of the native or Australian paper wasps, which it wasn't designed for that. It really was originally designed for European wasp. It doesn't. You won't get your mud wasps or any of those other types of wasps, unfortunately. It really is targeted around that Euro side of things, and that's all that we've seen, other than the Asian paper wasp that we've seen reported in New South Wales and Canberra. So we'd be interested if anyone who is using this observes anything else, but typically that's what we see.
Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, good question.
That's cool. Any other questions? I think there was something you mentioned earlier on, Adam, about what's the protection in there for bees? As you say, there's a deterrent for bees within the within that formulation.
Yeah, there is. Dave has put there is a bee repellency in our carbohydrate lure. It does break down though, so it's important to up to 21 days is generally the recommendation to visit a site again. It's not recommended to wait until you see bees fly into the traps. So 21 days is usually the recommendation to change over the lure. I've been out in Ringwood in Victoria where there was a beekeeper there and apiarist, and they sort of waited a bit too long. There's a couple of times of the year where sometimes bees will go into starvation mode or the temperatures drop considerably. And we had an instance, I think it was last year, Dave, wasn't it, where the temperatures in Victoria dropped considerably overnight from 21 to 3 degrees during the day. And this is where this site, they noticed the bees were actually going for our lure. So they just go in like a mode of frenzy. They try and collect all what they can and head back to their nest. So we recommend, if you do notice that, to take your traps down until those temperatures get back up again.
Yeah,
it's one of the important things with that we've touched on here is we have the Vespex accreditation on our label. We can't fit all of our knowledge and the things that we've learnt about European wasps onto a label. And that's why we developed the accreditation as part of the stewardship of the product. As Adam has said, the product was designed with a bee repellent in it. It actually volatilizes, it evaporates off from the product and it repels the bees. And eventually that will evaporate off to the point where there's not very much or none left in the product. So that's why we recommend that you keep an eye on it. 21 days, replace it, put it in there with a fresh lot. The incident that Adam mentioned, it's an unfortunate thing where a person has placed a food source right next to their bees. That's not recommended, and that's covered in our accreditation. What happened in that particular instance is the beekeeper removed all of the honey from the hive. They do that usually once or twice a year. The beekeepers will do that. This beekeeper removed all of the honey from their hives, and the bees need that as a food source to overwinter. So it triggered a response where they would normally not consume our product. They were in starvation mode, and they needed a source which the homeowner put right beside the beehive. So it's not a normal situation, and if that person had done the accreditation course, they would have known not to do that. So really important, the training that we provide.
Yeah, and obviously when you're looking at trying to trap, when you're trying to trap those queens, you're just trying to drop those numbers and do that early in the season. And what kind of timing are you looking at for that? What's the kind of time scale?
Well, actually, the queens are, as Adam pointed out, the timescale. So usually this time of year, the queens will be triggered. I'm seeing queens, and I'm in Wonga Park in Melbourne. I've seen queens already. I'm aware that in Victoria, European wasps this season have actually overwintered. There's been activity all through winter, and there's guys that have been trapping workers throughout the season, but knocking those queen numbers down. The biomass, in Canberra, the examples they were talking about that Adam shared there with the gang, we trap thousands of queens, which reduces the biomass of nests dramatically. So timing is now's the time to be getting out there and trapping queens. The queens will be in hibernation, so they mate before they go into hibernation in winter. And when they come out, they need carbohydrates. They need carbohydrates, the fuel that workers and the queen run on. They'll collect protein to feed to the larvae, which they then give back as carbohydrates. So the carbohydrates is the fuel that the workers and queen runs on. So when the queen emerges from hibernation, she needs a quick fix before she starts excavating and making and establishing a nest. So they love the Vespex European Wasp lure. It's a good time to be trapping those queens right now.
Yeah, so they should be getting done or looked at now for that. Okay,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool. That temperature drop, that just sounds like an average Victorian day to me. It doesn't sound out of the ordinary, Adam.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we do get some temperature drops quite frequently here in Victoria. That's for sure.
Yep. No, that's great. And your course, is that an online course, or is that something you guys run as a live course, or how's that done?
Yep, that's it's a online course, so it's an automated process now.
Yep.
So you basically go in, you sign up, and you can watch the video at as Adam said, there's 2 parts. So the first part of the course is all about European wasp, the habits, what you're looking at, and then the second part is how you actually use the program, do the trapping, the things to be aware of, and at the end of it you get a certificate.
Yep.
And you're able to then go and continue doing your trapping and baiting. You can watch, once you've done the course, you can come back and revisit it any time. So it's one of the good things about doing the automated process, Mark, is that originally when we started, we did actual courses, but people want to go back, or they want to see something again, or they don't have the time to actually come to the course. So it just makes it more convenient for the industry.
No, that's cool. And does that accredit the operator or the business?
That accredits the operator.
Okay.
So,
So ideally, if you've got a business with half a dozen guys, you want to have them all accredited if they're doing that type of work, I guess.
exactly, yeah. We want everyone to be familiar with what they're doing. You know, occasionally we might get one call in a season where someone has had an issue, and invariably 100% of the time it's somebody who hasn't done the course. They've just put it out and thought that would work. And yeah, you need to understand, and as I said, we can't fit all of the knowledge that we've learned over these years onto a label, unfortunately. So
yeah, you wouldn't be. You're only got in the label what you're required to. They won't allow you additional things. So that's cool.
Yep.
Awesome stuff. That's fine. Well, if I don't know if there's any other questions. Let's see if Lisa, Fiona can check the chat for me. Looks all good. No one else got the hand up or shouting out, so that's cool.
Can I just ask one real quick question as we're finishing? In regards
fire away.
My name's Jeff. I'm from Newcastle, Kent, so I should have introduced myself there before. My question in regards to in putting the chemical out for us to be using it, we're using a lot of parks and what have you. The question is obviously when we put it out, how do I say this? Members of the public are always inquisitive as to what we're doing. They're all going to go and have a look, and I see that the bright pink liquid, they're going to go over and stick their fingers in it and throw it round and smell it, and members of the public alike.
Yeah.
My question is it a safe, I know safe for want of a better word, chemical to put out there to the public, as opposed to using it in vineyards and stuff like that?
That's a great question, Jeff. I'll give a two-part answer. So indoxacarb is a very safe active ingredient. So if somebody was to drink the product in one of these stations, it's not going to negatively affect them. I wouldn't recommend it. It's a very, very low amount. So as far as it's got a safer LD50 than synthetic pyrethroids, which are commonly used by pest controllers in homes. So it has a high degree of safety. We also, one of the requests that we've had from last season was actually to produce a label that could be applied to the dominated traps and et cetera, so that it would identify what was actually going on. Yeah. So we've now got a sticker that says "Do not touch," has the contact details, phone numbers, but also identifies whether it's trapping or baiting and what product's being used in there as well, just to identify what's going on. And yeah, a "Do not touch" a big bold writing. So that's an ID, Dominator ID labels that are now available from the resellers in rolls of 48 with a permanent marker.
Not a problem. Thank you very much.
Hope that answers your question.
Yes,
that's great. Thanks, Jeff. A big "do not touch" sticker just sounds like more of an attractant.
Yes. Well, I was thinking
don't push this big button.
Because we use the same method on our rat station boxes around the place, and you come back the next day and they're gone. No matter how much chain and everything you use.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen.
No, that's great. Awesome stuff. Thanks, Jeff. That's great. That's cool. Well, if that's all the questions for today, we'll close out there. A big thank you to Adam and David, obviously from Sundew, to present this month. I think next month we have a presentation from. I think the next month's webinar is a presentation from BSF. We haven't got a title for that yet, but once we have that, we'll get that invite sent out at the beginning of the month, hopefully. So we'll see you next month for that one. But in the meantime, as I say, thanks to the Sundew guys. Everything that they talked about today is obviously on our website. The information that's there, and you can order through obviously their website or directly with their guys in the store. So again, thanks for your time today, and we'll see you next month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.